Welcome to Unbiased and On the Fence. I'm Shane. Thank you so much for joining. There's Mary. Way to hop in there first, Mary. You weren't going to get beat today, huh? So thank you so much, you guys, for hopping in. This is all about a video that I just recently came across. Diane sent me. I'd seen part of it a while back, but I couldn't find it anymore. And then Diane H actually sent me a link to it again. I was like, you know what, I need to rebroadcast some of this just so it doesn't get lost in the mix. And I'm not really sure where it disappeared to. And so before that, I wanted to do a couple announcements. One, if you've been waiting for Joseph Rain to come on, he did contact me yesterday. He's been feeling under the weather, and he is trying to fit me into the schedule at some point. So we still hope to have him on really soon. We'll just see how that works out. And also, if you guys watch, have any party people in the house that watch Scare Performance, I'm going to be on next Monday for Mandela Mondays. So hope that you all can join me, and of course Guy Fawkes will be there, and Scare Performance. Not sure if anybody else is going to be there, but you can just tune in and see. Looking forward to that. And let's see what else we got here. Oh, I also got some ideas for decals, and I want to get your feedback as well. Some pithy ideas for decals to put on back of vehicles to raise awareness, not only about the Mandela Effect, but about ascension in general. So I think that can sort of be our part as far as raising awareness. And I don't know if any of you guys have stores or anything like that, but you could order them in bulk and we could work something out with that. But I'll show you a few of the designs as we get into that. But I want to start this video here. Really interesting stuff. Start playing this, and then I will get to you guys in the chat.
Of course, we're talking about the Mandela Effect.
Let me pause this.
And the optimal temporal reality, or optimal timeline. What is the Mandela Effect? Raise your hand if you do not know. I'm sure pretty much everyone here, or a lot of people, know. Okay. In 2013, Nelson Mandela dies, and it's announced. And thousands of people across the country were pretty confused, and I was one of them, because I remember Nelson Mandela being announced dying in prison years before. Anyone here remember that? Okay, so a small number. Okay. And raise your hand if you remember Nelson Mandela actually dying in 2013. Don't remember hearing about him dying in prison. Interesting. Okay. Millions of people have reported the phenomenon, and I've noticed it myself. What are the different theories of what's occurring? Are we experiencing alternate realities? Is there something occurring like CERN that is splitting space-time or causing a strange merging of other realities? And are we having false memories? Psychologists and psychiatrists have used Occam's razor, which we hear all the time, and stated the most likely scenario is that people are having false memories, which is, you know, they need to explain why a certain number of the population are having the exact same false memory. Are they the effects of time travel? Now, I think we've all heard of the different programs where people traveled back in time that went on for some time. But they realized that they were fracturing space-time and the current timeline. So they started going back trying to fix those problems, causing more problems. And finally, a non-terrestrial group visited us and told us that we needed to stop messing around going back in time because time was elastic, and just like space, it'll snap back together. And that could explain some of the things that we see with the Mandela Effect. And of course, the psychologists, say it's an effect of confabulation, clinical term for memory defects. Okay. We picked out a few examples. There were hundreds of examples online. We picked out a few that I actually experienced. And raise your hand if you remember it being Oscar Mayer with an E. Okay, that's what I remember. No, it's Oscar Mayer. And we did some research. There has been changes in marketing and that kind of a thing, but you look back at old commercials, you cannot find commercials or ads with them in the old configuration. The first one to the left. Yeah, Oscar, M-E-Y-E-R, is what I remember. And a lot of people don't remember that, ever. And of course, I remember Sex and the City. I mean, the show was on all the time, I remember that. And raise your hand if you remember it as Sex and the City. I mean, that blows my mind. I mean, and little things. Do you remember him having a monocle? Yeah? If you don't remember him having a monocle, raise your hand. Okay. And of course, the one that everyone talks about, the Bear-Stained Bears. And yes, I remember it as the Berenstein Bears. And now it's Berenstain Bears. And the Kit Kat bar. How many people remember the dash in the middle of Kit Kat? Yeah. How many don't remember it ever being there? I mean, the person next to you that raised their hand when you didn't, are they from a different timeline? Are you from a different timeline? Or do one of the two of you have a memory defect? This is the one I had the hardest problem with when I actually watched it, because I remember Luke, I am your father. I remember comedians using it. I remember it being Luke, I am your father. And when I watched it again, and it said, no, I am your father, I was heavily puzzled. Does anyone here not remember it being Luke, I am your father? Okay, that's universally strange. And of course, Field of Dreams, if you build it, he will come. That was used in a lot of comedy routines, sitcoms would repeat that. Now if you watch the movie, it's if you build it, they will come. And some people have researched it and talked to the original screenwriters and people involved with the movies, and the people are baffled. They say, no, it was always they will come. How did Rautier Air explain this effect? As I mentioned on Cosmic Disclosure, I was shown kind of a curtain of, it looked almost like crystalline rods all lined up perpendicular, and they were kind of turning. And as they were turning, I was seeing all these different scenes that would become blurry and then become crystal clear. Strange things like nuclear bombs going off in a large city in the United States, dirty bombs going off, a meteor hitting the ocean. And I asked what I was seeing, and Thierry said that there has been a merging of timelines, and it's occurring from a number of different things. The energetic changes that are occurring in our solar system, the mass consciousness is guiding these changes, and there is also indeed this almost elastic effect to space-time that begins to bring temporal realities, collapsing them back in on each other. So apparently, at one point, we were all horrified to see a nuclear bomb go off in a city in the US. But something occurred in this Mandela effect to where none of us remember it or experienced it. So talking about these different commercials and products, that was a very small scale of the Mandela effect. It's happening on a large scale as well, and many people have no memory whatsoever of the different timelines. The codependent superconsciousness. Oh. I was shown by Thierry what our superconsciousness was because I just wasn't getting it when he was trying to explain it. My third density mind was not wrapping around it. What he did is he basically pulled me out of my body because there was no other way to view this. And as I was expanding, I was seeing all these different, souls that are alive now, from humanity. And as I started being pulled further and further away, each individual became almost like a pixel. And I saw this super being. And this super being had a very feminine energy about it. And it had a very traumatized energy about it. As though it had, it was related to me very much like a battered wife. And it has PTSD. This is our superconsciousness is in this state. And basically, what was related to me is that different groups, like the reptilians, they have a codependent relationship with us to where they're the abusers. They're supposed to be learning through this process as well, their superconsciousness. And then we have the superconsciousness of other non-terrestrial races that are like the neighbor next door that intervenes when domestic violence occurs. That was a difficult concept for me to understand, to be honest, that we're existing, making decisions, and experiencing things on such a wide range of levels. The superconsciousness is relying on each of us to, get where we need to be to help heal the PTSD and get it over the point to where it can start healing again. And apparently it's not at that point yet. Are starseeds more able to witness or understand the effect of the Mandela effect? It seems that a lot of the people that are noticing these changes identify themselves as starseeds. And we've been seeing starseeds activated like we've never seen before. People contacting us, very excited about their mission for the first time. Everyone around them is excited. I'm sure half of you, if not more, are have a mission and are looking for a way to make sure that you can achieve that mission. Raise your hand if you feel like you're here for a reason. You're on a mission? So what is the most optimal timeline? The most optimal timeline, is, what we see in all of our different belief systems. This ascension event, becoming a fourth density being and, leaving behind all of the pain and hurt that we've held on to that's anchoring us to third density. The way we navigate to this optimal timeline is that we have to hit our missions with intent. It's time for us to come together, put aside all of our different belief systems, understand that none of us have all the answers, no matter who is up on what stage, and that we're all looking for the same thing. We're looking for the truth. If we can come together under that flag, then no one can stop us. Oh, what happened? Can time be manipulated? It can, and it has been manipulated. That was a major issue that was caused by our early programs, especially when we first, the torsion field drives that we had were, in the 1980s, were the top of the line. But in the 90s, they developed temporal drives. These temporal drives let them jump enormous distances in space-time. But when you're that far advanced in technology, if you're traveling in space, you're a time traveler too. You can travel back in time. I've mentioned before, it's very possible that our ancient aliens haven't even discovered us yet. They could, in 2030, come flying up to our solar system, discover us, and decide to start flying back in time and watch us evolve to where we are now. These abilities, all of the most advanced beings have that ability. They can travel through time as easily as they can space. And I think I covered that. Time is elastic. No one's had any questions yet? What? What is the co-creative consciousness? The co-creative consciousness is something that we have naturally that the powers that be want to keep us ignorant of. They use our co-creative consciousness as their black magic. They will plant a seed in our co-creative consciousness, and then usually what catalyzes that seed is emotion. They'll do a false flag, or they'll have a media event that will cause people to have a strong emotion that will catalyze the seed that they had planted. So they are basically tricking us into using our own powers against us. If we learn to use our co-creative consciousness, it's over for them. That's why they keep this group of people here. They use divide and conquer. They keep us at each other's throats, just, debating all of our different belief systems. There's a reason for that. We're a major danger to them.
We got a question right here, Corey.
Hi, my name is Tanya. What you just said about that described exactly what I thought I read about when Mandela died, or supposedly died in prison. The powers that be, and I don't know that much about politics, but down in Africa, they were concerned about the mass uniting and supporting and getting too much personal power from Mandela, so they put that lie out that he died to break the momentum and to break their connection with Mandela, to control the people, so that when he actually got out and died, that upward spiral of energy that they were having in their connection with him was broken, and then he came out, and it's sort of like the momentum fizzled a little bit, and then he just went on, lived his life, and he...
I'd heard that too, but I'd also heard that the people that have researched, looking back at the media archives, were unable to find any of the announcements of his death.
I saw the announcement of his death, and I intuitively...
If you can find any archives, that would be
I intuitively knew it was a lie, so I went looking for the information, and intuitively I knew somebody put it out as bullshit. But anyway, my other question for you was, who is Ra Yeah, who is that?
Who is what?
Ra.
Oh, raw tier.
Raw tier.
Well, raise your hand if you watch Cosmic Disclosure. Or I should raise your hand if you don't watch Cosmic Disclosure. Okay. Have you heard of the Blue Avians? Okay, raw tier air is the one that interfaces with me the most. He's one of the Blue Avians. Okay.
So for everyone, as we're going through here, if you want to raise your hand, I'll pick you out as you guys are talking, and I'll walk up, and when Corey takes a pause, I'll bring you the mic.
Hi, Corey.
Hello.
I have a question going back to when you said about feeling like the energy was a battered wife, or, battered wife syndrome. And what came to me to ask is that Mother Earth? Would that be the energy that we're all experiencing in?
That's a good question. And on the level that I was shown, this was not Gaia. This was not Mother Earth. This was this was the mass consciousness of human beings. Not animals, minerals, the spirit of the Gaia. It wasn't any of that. It was just the mass consciousness of human beings here on Earth.
We'll do one more question here, and then we'll move on and keep going.
Could you explain what starseed means?
Yes, there's a number of terms for starseed, but a starseed is a person who took on a mission. Basically, you could be a different non-terrestrial group, a different higher density group, and you make some sort of a soul contract agreement to come and incarnate here on Earth for a mission. I would imagine almost everyone here is exactly a starseed. I mean, raise your hand if you think you're a starseed. The ones who didn't, you're probably a starseed or you wouldn't be here. I'm going to move along. Are y'all liking this format? Okay. We're trying out a few different formats. We thought we would try this one. It seems to be working out. How is our co-creative consciousness used against us? And I discussed that with the black magic the Cabal uses. They'll maybe have a movie about a large earthquake or terrorist event, and then they will have a false flag, and then our co-creative consciousness will make it possible for something larger to occur. There are a lot of different levels that they use it at, and I'm sure many of you are familiar with how black magic is used and how much consciousness plays into it. Raise your hand if you consented to be a free-range slave. Nobody? I don't remember that either. How did we give consent for those to use our co-creative consciousness against us? Well, one of the biggest ways is through apathy, lack of action, lack of standing up and fighting back. Many of us are primed to do that and are already doing that. All of those who are asleep, the vast majority of this mass consciousness that we were talking about, this mass consciousness being, they are steering the ship right now. But as you know, a small rudder can change the course of a ship. A small number of people who claim the power of our co-creative consciousness and begin to demand that suppressed technologies are released, that's how we're going to make things happen. We're not going to have someone come and make an announcement on the news or a government official. We're going to have to demand it and get out, protest, do the mass meditations. It's time for us to come together and work on this. Do you agree? And of course, how we stop this hijacking of our co-creative consciousness is being aware of what they're doing. Now that you're aware, and you probably were already aware, But if we can make other people aware of what's going on, the tactics won't work. What is the 100th monkey effect? Oh, you have a question? Hang on just a second. We'll get the mic.
It'd make me run all the way over here.
I think the person back there has a question too.
Okay. Hi, Corey. I'm Greg, and how you doing? What was my question? Go back one slide. Go back one slide. I actually forgot. I just need to see. Oh, what do we do about the psychotronics? In my experience of learning about this, I've run into, after learning things, being very heavily triggered, my friends and whatever. And it seems to me, myself, most of the time, if I'm aware of who I am, whatever, I can kind of counter it now. But for those that don't know it, and most people don't, it is so, well, people don't know this, it's even possible for this to be happening. And it seems like it needs to be stopped, but maybe not by us. Maybe we do need help with it. Do you have any opinion on that?
Psychotronics?
The psychotronic mind control, the technical
Well,
mind control.
there are many levels of it. There are advanced ET craft in orbit that also use relays on Earth that have a giant grid to suppress our consciousness, and basically it's mind control. We have social mind control, all these different social norms, that if you don't want your people breeding outside of your race, then you make up all these, social rules for them. Well, that's a type of mind control. Every single one of us is on some level of mind control, no matter how awake we are. But for us to finally break these tools that are being used against us, it's very difficult to defend against them, if not impossible. It's almost impossible. So it's going to have to come to a tipping point to where we have